I met my husband, who was 31 years old, in 2021, and we got married soon after. We then got pregnant shortly after that and moved to the other side of the world for his work. I had our daughter, who was 1.5 years old, in January last year, and admittedly, I gained some weight. It was the standard post-pregnancy weight, and my confidence took a hit. For context, I weighed about 65 kilograms when I got pregnant, and on the day of induction, I weighed 100 kilograms, so I gained a lot. I lost 25 kilos, and then my husband generously paid for my liposuction and breast implant replacement. I started to feel better, but I was still 10 kilos overweight and didn't have time for the gym because my husband works long hours and goes to the gym after work. He became distant after our daughter turned 4 months old. He would constantly be on his phone and would lock himself in the bathroom all the time under the excuse of dropping the kids off. But it seemed like he was actually having special alone time with random women on Instagram and reading his old sexts with other women. I found out about this later. We were like roommates, but we still had intimacy. However, it wasn't like it was before having a baby, and I attributed it to both of us being tired and me not looking as good as I used to. I still tried, but I got rejected a lot, although I didn't think much of it. One day, he said he wanted to try a threesome because I had had some before we met. Soon, that became his main topic of discussion, especially when it came to intimacy. I felt insecure, but again, I blamed myself for my own insecurities. One day in December, he went out with his friends to go day drinking. He left the house at 11:30 a.m., and I barely heard from him until 9 a.m. the next day, when he messaged me saying he woke up in a random stairwell on the other side of our city. In the past, he would get drunk, but always come home, which didn't bother me except when he sometimes acted mean to me when he was on the verge of passing out from drunkenness. Finally, I became suspicious enough and angry enough that I decided to confront him and check his phone if he didn't give me an answer about what he was doing. He came home at 10:30 a.m., and after a while, we sat on separate couches. I told him that I felt taken advantage of because I always stayed home taking care of the baby, the house, the cooking, and the laundry. But as I said this, he could barely look at me because he was busy messaging on his phone. My parents had just arrived from our home country and came to our house, so I took the opportunity while he was charging his phone in our room and talking to my parents in the kitchen to check his phone. Reader, I found a lot of things. He was screenshotting Instagram profiles to jerk off to. He was watching porn excessively. And the worst part was that he was sexting other women. He ran into the room and I was shaking. He asked, "Have you been in my phone?" And I said yes. My parents didn't know what happened, but I asked them to take our daughter out for lunch for a while. They did, and I broke down. My husband claimed that he was only messaging this woman to arrange a threesome for when we returned to our home country in 10 months. Keep in mind that I don't know this woman. Then he hit me with the biggest revelation. He had been sharing naked photos of both of us, implying that this was something I wanted. To summarize the rest of the story, I didn't leave him. I realized that I love him more than I hate his awful behavior. But now, 6 months later, my confidence is shattered. He doesn't like it when I bring it up because he thinks it's because I don't trust him, or that I can't or won't forgive him. He is trying to be better, and from what I can see, he is making an effort. But I don't know what I should do to feel like myself again. How can I make this not continue to break my heart? How can I let him know that I forgive him? But the pain hasn't gone away yet? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Do you not worry that you are giving him the green light to treat you disrespectfully and engage with other women? Unless there are some consequences of his actions, he will simply do a better job at hiding his gross behavior. Comment 2. Honestly, why would you do this to yourself? Get out. He just uses you. Do you not have any kind of self-respect to understand that this is not okay? You're basically his servant, taking care of your kid and taking care of the house. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all of this. So, a week ago, things took a turn I didn't see coming. My husband and I had been trying to work through everything, but I made a mistake that changed everything. I was feeling really low and decided to confide in my best friend back home. I thought she would understand and give me some advice, but instead, She told me I needed to leave him immediately. She was so adamant about it that it made me second-guess everything. I started to think maybe I was being too forgiving, too naive. That night, I confronted my husband again. I told him about my conversation with my friend and how she thought I should leave him. He got really defensive and angry, saying that she didn't know the whole story and that it was unfair for her to judge him. We ended up having a huge fight and he stormed out of the house. He didn't come back until the next morning, and when he did, he looked like he hadn't slept at all. He told me he had been driving around all night thinking about everything. He said he realized he had been taking me for granted and that he needed to make some serious changes if he wanted to save our marriage. He promised to cut back on his gym time and spend more time with me and our daughter. He also said he would go to therapy to work on his issues. I was skeptical, but I agreed to give him another chance. Over the next few days, he did seem to be making an effort. He came home earlier from work, helped out more with our daughter, and even suggested we go on a family outing to the park. It felt like we were starting to reconnect, and I began to feel a glimmer of hope. But then, something happened that threw everything into chaos. I was cleaning up the living room when I found a receipt for a hotel room. It was dated the night he had stormed out after our fight. My heart sank. I confronted him about it, and he admitted that he had gone to the hotel to clear his head. He swore he hadn't done anything wrong, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. I decided to check his phone again, even though I knew it would probably lead to more heartache. This time, I found messages between him and a woman I didn't recognize. They were talking about meeting up, and it was clear from the context that they had already met before. My heart shattered all over again. When I confronted him, he broke down and admitted that he had met her at a bar a few weeks ago. He said nothing had happened between them, but they had been texting and flirting. He swore he hadn't cheated on me physically, but I felt betrayed all the same. I told him I needed some space to think, and he agreed to stay with a friend for a few days. During that time, I did a lot of soul searching. I thought about our relationship, our daughter, and what I wanted for my future. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this, constantly doubting him and feeling insecure. I needed to take control of my life and my happiness. I decided to reach out to a therapist for myself. I needed to work on my own issues and rebuild my confidence. I also started looking into support groups for women who had been through similar situations. It felt good to take some steps towards healing, even if they were small ones. When my husband came back, we had a long, honest conversation. I told him that I couldn't keep living in this cycle of betrayal and forgiveness. I needed him to be completely transparent with me if we were going to move forward. He agreed and handed over his phone, saying he had nothing to hide anymore. As we talked, I learned more about his past and some of the issues he had been dealing with long before we met. He opened up about his struggles with self-esteem and how he had always sought validation from other women. It didn't excuse his behavior, but it helped me understand where he was coming from. We decided to try couples therapy to see if we could rebuild our trust and communication. It's been a tough road, but we're both committed to making it work. There are still days when I feel overwhelmed by everything that's happened, but I'm trying to take it one day at a time. In the meantime, I've been focusing on myself and my own well-being. I've started going for walks with our daughter, and I've even joined a local moms group to make some new friends. It's been good to have some support, and to know that I'm not alone in this. I know we have a long way to go, and there are no guarantees, but I'm hopeful that we can come out of this stronger. Thanks for reading and for all the support. Am I the idiot for leaving my lazy husband and taking the kids after he pretended to change first and foremost? Thank you all for the wonderful comments. Some of these were really hard to read, but you're all right. I need to get it, and I've decided I'm going to. I'm still not sure on the when, whether that's in the very near future or after I'm done with school. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with him, and I just need to hurry up and get it over with. Thank you again, everyone. I realize my fear of being alone permanently is pretty irrational, and a lot of you have helped me see myself in a different, more positive light. The next update might not happen for a while, but I'll come back as the situation unfolds. I appreciate you all immensely. I've been with my husband for 5 years, the last 3 being particularly difficult. We have 2 boys together, 2 and 4. I have a son, 8, from a previous marriage, and he has a daughter, 9, with his ex. For the last 3 years, I've been the primary provider. I work full-time, I'm in school full-time, And I do most of the child rearing and all of the necessary duties to keep a household running, paying bills, grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, etc. He works very minimally because he hates the heat. We live in Florida, and he's determined he'll make us $200,000 with side hustles or owning a business. On top of these huge issues, he's also insanely inconsiderate. I work 12-hour shifts, and he'll spend the day asking me what he should cook for dinner or how to cook something when Google is literally in his pocket. He won't do anything for himself and is the absolute definition of a man-child. All of this, plus trying to cheat on me with a scam account, I wish I was joking, makes me feel I don't have the words for it. I feel like I'm parenting another child. I feel devalued. Now here's where I'm struggling. I don't consider myself a high-value person. I spent a lot of my early 20s making a lot of mistakes. I have a felony 8 years ago, nothing drug or abuse or theft related. I'm divorced already and would be twice if I leave him. I'm low income, but fighting like hell to change that. All of that makes me feel like it would be hard to find me desirable, and I worry I well and truly will die alone. Additionally, I'm worried that I'll have to work more and my children will resent me for missing much of their childhoods. It makes leaving scary. Now, that's not to say I would leave him and immediately start looking for another husband. Matter of fact, I quite like the idea of being alone. I've spent so long catering to other people that it'd be nice to just take care of myself for a while. But the thoughts still linger there that I might only ever be taking care of myself. He also hasn't been self-sufficient at all, in the least bit. If I leave him, he'll have nothing. No home, no car, nothing. I don't want to be with him, but I don't want him to suffer for that. Anyway, how do I just take the plunge and go? Would this be better for my kids, for me? And how do I find even a semblance of self-esteem so being alone isn't so scary? Thank you for reading. TLDR. I feel like I'm wasting my life with a man who can't do anything for himself and unsure how to get out of this situation. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It's almost like you're a single mom as it is. You do everything with the kids, and you're the breadwinner while your husband works minimally. There wouldn't be much difference between the way it is now and if you were to divorce him. If you're that unhappy with him and you don't think things could work, then you might as well split up. As for your fear of being alone, just focus on yourself for now, and everything will come together eventually. You're still young, and there will be plenty of time for you to find the right person. There's somebody out there for you who will accept and love you just the way you are. Comment 2. Sounds like you have it figured out. You just need to take that step and leave. You're already a married single supermom. Stop worrying if he can make it without you. He's not worried about making your family difficult with his work ethic or home life. You said he's inconsiderate. He sounds like he's your 4th kid. You got this. I couldn't even imagine your workload with full-time work/student/mother. You're already doing it. Stop worrying about being a 2-time divorcee or what people may think. They don't pay your bills. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. So, after reading all your comments and taking some time to think, I decided to have a serious talk with my husband about our future. I told him that I couldn't keep going like this and that something needed to change. He seemed to take it seriously at first and promised he would step up. For a few days, he actually did. He cooked dinner without asking me a million questions, took the kids to the park, and even started looking for a more stable job. I thought maybe, just maybe, things could get better. But then, things took a turn for the worse. One evening, I came home from a long shift to find him sitting on the couch, playing video games, and the kids running wild. The house was a mess, and there was no dinner in sight. When I confronted him, he got defensive and said he was just taking a break. I felt my heart sink. It was like all the progress we had made was for nothing. The next day, I got a call from my son's school. He had been acting out and not doing his homework. When I asked him about it, he broke down and said he felt like I was never around. It hit me hard. I realized that my fear of leaving my husband and being alone was affecting my kids more than I thought. They needed stability, and I wasn't providing it by staying in this toxic relationship. I decided to take a risk. I told my husband that I was leaving and taking the kids with me. He was furious and said I was ruining everything. He even threatened to take me to court for custody. I was scared, but I knew I had to do what was best for my kids and myself. I found a small apartment and moved out with the kids. It was tough at first. The kids were confused and upset, and I was exhausted from juggling work, school, and being a single mom. But I felt a sense of relief that I hadn't felt in years. I was finally taking control of my life. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. My husband refused to pay child support and kept showing up unannounced, causing more stress. I had to get a restraining order, which only made things more complicated. My oldest son started acting out even more, and I felt like I was failing as a mother. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat down and cried. I felt overwhelmed and alone. I started questioning if I had made the right decision. Maybe I should have stayed and tried harder to make things work. But deep down, I knew that staying would have only made things worse in the long run. I reached out to a support group for single moms, and it was a game changer. Hearing other women's stories and knowing I wasn't alone gave me the strength to keep going. I also started seeing a therapist, which helped me work through my fears and insecurities. As for my husband, he eventually found a job and started paying child support. But our relationship remained strained. We only communicated through lawyers, and it was clear that he was still bitter about the separation. I tried to focus on my kids and my own well-being, but it was hard not to feel guilty about the whole situation. One day, while going through some old photos, I found a picture of my husband and me from when we first started dating. We looked so happy and carefree. It made me wonder where things had gone wrong. I realized that we had both changed over the years, and maybe we were never truly compatible. It was a painful realization, but it helped me come to terms with my decision. In the end, I knew that leaving my husband was the right choice, even if it was the hardest thing I had ever done. My kids deserved a happy and stable home, and I deserved to be happy too. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined to make it work. Thank you all for reading and for your support. Am I the idiot for leaving my controlling boyfriend after he freaked out over me having coffee with a friend? I've lived with my boyfriend for almost a year now, and we've been together in total about 2.5 years. We've been having a lot of arguments on the topic, and my family thinks he's too controlling. I've made a list of some of the things I think might be too much, and I'm not sure what to do. There are more, but these are the bigger ones. We've had a talk about it more recently, and he justifies them because I often lie and do things behind his back, so I can't be trusted. The numbering in the list has no significance. 1, I have to tell him when I drink coffee or get an energy drink, because he doesn't want me to get addicted to caffeine. He justifies this because my mom drinks a lot of energy drinks. 2, I can't smoke nicotine at all. He doesn't want me to get addicted. 3, I can only smoke my medical marijuana once a month at most. He doesn't want me to get addicted. When we weren't living together, I didn't have to tell him at all. I smoked every night for sleep and occasionally for fun or panic attacks. Then I had to talk to him about smoking unless it was for sleep. We broke up for a bit, and one of his terms for getting back together was that I couldn't smoke more than once a month. 4, I can't smoke with other people unless he says he's okay with it. 5, I have to ask him if I can drink, but he's okay with it multiple times a week. 6, I can't wear short shorts or an exposed shirt. Tight pants or shirts are cutting it close. I can't be too exposed if I leave the bedroom at all. I prefer he not leave the room shirt/pantless when the roommate's girlfriend is around. 7, I can't make any purchases without consulting him first and making sure he's okay with it. I ask that if he expects that of me, I want the same. I get told about his purchases most of the time. He wants to make sure I'm saving enough money to pay off his student loans when he gets out of college. 8, I have to tell him when I leave the house and where I'm going, but I expect the same from him. 9, if I leave the room and he asks, I have to tell him where I'm going and what I'm doing. If I'm going to be gone for longer than a handful of minutes, I have to tell him without being asked. I told him that I'm not okay with telling him what I'm doing in the bathroom when I go to the bathroom. I said that as long as he expects that of me, I expect that of him. 10, I can't talk to other people about us or our arguments. Venting isn't valid, and my opinions should come from me, not outside influences. 11, if I've done something he thinks was wrong, I have to apologize. It doesn't count if I took too long to do it, if he had to prompt me for it, or if it doesn't seem like I mean it. 12, he says he's justified in doing things like going through my messages, looking at my bank transactions, drug testing me, and other various things along those lines, because I have a history of lying and doing things without telling him. He gets angry when I say it feels like I have to ask permission to do things, because I don't need to ask permission. He's entitled to being upset. I say he is entitled to feeling upset, but his behavior is more than just feeling upset. We'll argue about it for hours, he'll get very angry, he'll want to go through my stuff and get angry if I don't want him to. He'll start talking about breaking up or taking a break, which is usually just all the same restrictions, but less affection. He'll say he's not comfortable saying I love you back and doesn't want to answer when I ask if that means he doesn't love me anymore. Last time he said he didn't love me, I said I didn't want to answer certain questions because I didn't feel comfortable being so vulnerable with someone who didn't even love me. I think that's why he stopped straight up saying he doesn't love me and does that instead. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This jerk thinks you're a toddler. Are you a patient at a mental health facility? What the frick? Don't just break up with this jerk. Tell him to kick rocks. Who the frick does he think he is, and why are you wondering if this is controlling or not? Do you think it's remotely normal for an adult to be monitored this way? He has zero consideration for you. That's what you need to accept and come to realize. This dude thinks you're an idiot. He treats you like a mentally incapable child. Does he even like you? This isn't respect. Frick him. Comment 2. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it seems like you're in a hurtful relationship. He controls more or less everything. That's not normal, and you know it's not from what you said. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. So, 3 days ago, I decided to go out for a coffee with my friend Sarah. I didn't tell my boyfriend because I just wanted a break from all the rules. I thought it would be harmless, but when I got back, he was furious. He had called me multiple times, and when I didn't pick up, he assumed the worst. We had a huge argument, and he accused me of lying and sneaking around again. I tried to explain that I just needed some space, but he wouldn't listen. He went through my phone and saw the messages between Sarah and me, and that made things even worse. The next day, I was still upset from the argument, so I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. I didn't tell him because I knew it would lead to another fight. When I got back, he was waiting for me at the door. He demanded to know where I had been and why I didn't tell him. I told him I needed some time alone, but he didn't believe me. He said I was being selfish and that I didn't care about his feelings. I felt trapped and didn't know what to do. Later that evening, I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she could tell something was wrong. I broke down and told her everything. She was really worried and said I needed to think about my own happiness and well-being. She reminded me that I deserve to be with someone who trusts and respects me. Her words hit me hard, and I started to see things differently. The next day, I decided to have a serious talk with my boyfriend. I told him that his controlling behavior was making me miserable and that I couldn't live like this anymore. He got defensive and said he was just trying to protect me. I told him that I appreciated his concern, but I needed to have some freedom and trust in our relationship. He didn't take it well and started yelling at me. I felt like I was hitting a wall and that nothing I said would make a difference. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything my mom had said and how unhappy I was. I realized that I had been making excuses for his behavior and that I deserved better. I decided that I needed to take a break from the relationship to figure things out. The next morning, I packed a bag and told him I was going to stay with my mom for a while. He was shocked and tried to convince me to stay, but I stood my ground. I told him that I needed some time to think and that we both needed to work on our issues. He was angry and hurt, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Staying with my mom has been a huge relief. I've had time to reflect on everything and realize how much his behavior has affected me. I've also had a chance to talk to my mom about her own experiences with controlling relationships. She told me about her first marriage and how she felt trapped and unhappy. Hearing her story made me realize that I wasn't alone and that I could get through this. I've also been talking to Sarah a lot. She's been really supportive and has helped me see things more clearly. She told me about her own struggles with a controlling partner and how she eventually found the strength to leave. Her story has given me hope and made me realize that I deserve to be happy and free. I've been thinking a lot about my future and what I want in a relationship. I know that I need to be with someone who trusts and respects me. I also need to work on my own issues and learn to be more honest and open. I realize that I've made mistakes, but I also know that I deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationship with my boyfriend. I still care about him, but I know that things need to change. I'm hoping that this time apart will help us both see things more clearly and work on our issues. But before I get into that, I need to focus on myself and my own happiness. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.